shower and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah.
On Pulse 95.
Let's really hope it's not another bad case of the Mondays.
No, I hope not.
We're going to try to be very optimistic here on the show. Welcome, guys, to the Afternoon Karak.
Mm-hmm.
How's your day going?
It's going.
It's going?
It's going. I got my my Turkish coffee.
There we
even
go.
though
That's your lucky coffee right there.
if Anna Schofield is listening to us right now, I am not drinking coffee. I am absolutely not drinking coffee at all. You misheard me.
You probably were drinking tea, matcha, something.
No. Remember, we're only supposed to drink water and have green apples.
Oh my God, yes.
So yeah, I'm not drinking tea.
Well, I'm being a good boy here. I'm drinking
Oh
some
wow,
water.
just throwing me under the bus.
Like that one student at the class that really tries to win the favor of the teacher.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy.
I can see that. You just threw me under the bus like that. You weren't even backing me up and being like, no, she's not drinking coffee at all. But they're like, I am drinking water. I'm the perfect student.
But weirdly enough, I think in the coming weeks, I think you and I are going to have some green apples laying around.
Thing is, I do have green apples at home. It's just that I'm too lazy to cut them. Usually when I'm leaving for work, I'm already rushing. And I barely have time to come from upstairs and just run out the house. I don't have time for any diversions within the house. So I don't go to the kitchen and cut me some apples. And the issue with pre-cutting apples is obviously they go very stale very quickly.
Yeah, I think the solution could be a green apple smoothie. How about that? Freshly squeezed.
I don't think that's going to be a good idea because I've learned that a couple of years ago that sometimes when you juice a fruit or a vegetable, you actually sometimes deactivate or remove some of its nutrients.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if it's applicable with green apples as well. Like when you juice it, you remove everything that's good with it. So that's another thing to think of. And also sometimes, when people are like, soup is probably better for you than eating the vegetable raw is better than a soup sometimes because even the heat might deactivate the good things in it.
Gotta love the food facts in the beginning of the hour.
I have all kind of facts from Aisha and Mazmi. You can always depend on that.
You are like the walking food network. Put it that way.
Well, you can say that I tell my friends that I am a well of knowledge and love and compassion, and just a small ego boost, why not?
Hashtag humble brag.
Humble brag. Everybody deserves a humble brag, including our lovely listeners who are tuning in right now. We have a celebration today. It's a good one and perhaps a repeated one, but don't worry, we've got some new things to talk about. And perhaps some of you guys are very new and haven't celebrated this with us, so we look forward to that.
Also, we got a few movie and show updates, everything from blockbusters and new casting announcements, as well as, adding salt to the wound. If you haven't gotten yourself a PlayStation 5, you might just now be able to get yourself this newly PlayStation branded t-shirt.
Goodness, I cannot wait to talk about this one. We're also going to be talking about an artist who says that Capcom stole her photos, stole her images for Resident Evil and Devil May Cry games in a lawsuit. So it's not just empty claims anymore. There's an actual lawsuit. We're also going to be talking about the Batman, the upcoming Matt Reeves movie, and apparently some Warner Bros. Executive are a bit worried about that movie. Now that is a rumor. Going to be talking about that and so much more. Only here on the Magic Hour, the Afternoon Karak.
What's the date?
What's the date?
What's the date?
What are we celebrating today?
We are celebrating Ice Cream Day, but not any ice cream. It is Chocolate Ice Cream Day. And I feel like we have spoken about it before, and I believe we also spoke about vanilla ice cream because usually you would put vanilla versus chocolate. That's the usual thing. But honestly, I have grown to, appreciate vanilla ice cream and also to reignite the love I have for chocolate ice cream.
For me, chocolate ice cream is always the type of flavor where, if I'm in Baskin, Cold Stone, whichever, and I'm sitting and I'm conflicted. I'm like, what flavor do I get? And I just give up and I can't think of any kind of flavor I look at chocolate ice cream and I'm like, I can't go wrong with that. Can I get a scoop?
Absolutely. Or next time, just get a scoop of vanilla and ice cream. They always complement each other.
You're right.
Because they actually both are an open canvas. And that's actually my question for you and our listeners. So text us 4215. Etisalat Urdu, or if you're tuning in to our live stream on YouTube on Pulse 95 Radio's channel, you can also text us on the live chat. We're going to give you a shout out. So my question is, we spoke about the perfect toppings for vanilla ice cream. What about the perfect toppings for chocolate ice cream?
Double chocolate, just doubling down on more chocolate ain't a bad idea.
So more chocolate. What do you mean, like chocolate chips, chocolate sprinkles, or actual chocolate bars?
Chocolate bars, brownies.
Yeah.
I really love chocolate peanut butter. That's a really great combo. But no, I love anything that comes on chocolate, to be honest.
Chocolate and coffee.
Chocolate on coffee.
Sauce.
Oh my God. Which is why I think this is the best way to celebrate today is just add a scoop of chocolate ice cream on anything. Make a whole night of it. If you guys are going to be watching a movie tonight, go buy yourself a whole pint of chocolate ice cream. Get share around some scoops and have a good time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for me, because like I said, I was trying to revisit that love I had for chocolate ice cream, and also I realized that when I was younger, do you know the Macintosh box of variety of chocolates? I realized that when I was younger, and this made me lucky and also weird, because I knew that nobody would ever reach out for my favorite chocolate because everybody thought it was gross, and it was the fruit flavored one that everybody hates, but I used to love it. And that's when I realized that I really, really like combining fruit with chocolate. So I think that chocolate and raspberries is amazing. Chocolate and strawberries is really cool, whether it's actual strawberry or raspberry sauce or actual just chunks of fruit. And also cookie dough, even though I prefer cookie dough and vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
But think about it, cookie dough, and then you add some, a couple of berries with it. Beautiful combination, in my opinion.
I really love these celebration days because it gives me an excuse to go out and treat myself. And it also gives you guys an excuse to treat yourself because you deserve it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Happy Chocolate Ice Cream Day. And let's move on to our next movie and show update. We have tons of things to discuss and so much more. And don't forget to join in the conversation. If you have a favorite chocolate ice cream topping you'd like to recommend, text us 4215 into Salat Urdu right here on the Afternoon Cutter.
Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah.
On Pulse 95.
Yesterday we were talking about the box office when we were talking about Cruella and how well it did despite the pandemic and despite the various closures across the entire world. Now we move on to The Conjuring 3 and Quiet Place 2 as they go head to head in the past weekend, and apparently Quiet Place 2 grows to $138 million in the international box office. Meanwhile, The Conjuring 3 leads the weekend box office with $57 million. And honestly, again,
very impressive
for a pandemic, numbers.
Yeah.
We haven't seen those big numbers for a very long time.
Those big numbers usually are carried by, big action flicks, some Marvel film in here and there. But, the biggest box office movies now are being carried by horror films.
That's exactly.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Exactly, especially since in my opinion, now people might actually disagree with me, I'm not a big fan of those very long sequels when it comes to horror movies. Sometimes they're overbearing, sometimes they're too much, sometimes they're too repetitive, and we know that the horror genre is notorious for that, where they don't know when to end. a series. They just keep on going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is very special because Quiet Place is the sequel, and so is The Conjuring. It's the third movie, the third installment in the series, whereas A Quiet Place is actually number 2, and they're actually working on a third movie.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. People really want to go to cinemas these days, and now summer's coming. I think we're definitely going to be excited for Black Widow and so many other movies.
Yes.
But also get excited for Matrix 4. Weirdly enough, my sister messaged me today, and she's like, do you know Matrix 4 is coming out? I'm like, yes, it's my job to know these things.
And we've known about it for at least like a year and a half, and it's kind of slow. The beginning, we got a lot of news, lots of things were being pumped out, whether it's through rumors or verified sources, and then quiet silence, and now we get some more news that Christina Ricci joins the Matrix 4.
Matrix?
Matrix. I said Matrix.
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 It's okay.
Mikhail, Matrix and Matrix.
I'm going to clip it. I'm going to clip that. Anyway.
Mikhail, you know that Matrix is actually just a way of pronouncing Matrix, right? You know, Matrix is the American pronunciation. Goodness.
I'm going to have to check that later.
But you know what? We need to speak to Anna Schofield. I think she's going to be our
my God.
What do you call it? Our expert in
and like pronunciation.
In pronunciation. And Matrix is a way of pronouncing it.
You're still owning up to it.
I am owning up to it.
I'll give you kudos for that.
You know what? I'm going to call her in our break right now. I'm not even going to wait for her to come.
Okay.
Okay. Anna, how do you pronounce this word? And can you pronounce it as Matrix? I've heard it.
It's okay. It's okay if we make a little,
it's
flop on the air.
You know
it's
what,
normal.
Mikhail? I still have a half a cup of coffee. You know that.
Oh, dear.
Although it's cold.
I mean that would be nice.
I'm not gonna throw hot drinks at you, Mikhail. That's just
we got to stay professional, of course.
Gotta stay professional. Just give us a moment, guys. Okay, back to the story.
All right, so this next movie update, we have another action film called Emergency Contact. We have gotten the official announcement for the casting. We got Yahya Abdul Mateen II. We got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I don't know how you pronounce this. Bo Flynn.
Bo.
Well, there's my mistake right there.
You're trying to, again, it's not a mistake. You know what? Let's get over it. Let's move on from it.
Okay.
So they are teaming up for an action movie called Emergency Contact. And it just shows, again, what are the most popular movies?
It's the action flicks.
Action flicks on streaming services are doing really, really well. Meanwhile, horror flicks are doing really well in the box office. And it just shows what people are interested in are those two genres, basically crazy genres that are very far from reality. Kind of, mostly very far away from reality. No pandemic there. Actually, no. Maybe Contagion, a little bit of pandemic over there.
Let's hope we don't get a sequel for that. Literally and figuratively.
Do you remember that we actually spoke about the fact that they're actually working on a sequel, kind of?
I hope not. Let's. I hope it stays in conception stage and never see the light of day.
We hope so. But yeah, Emergency Contact, The Conjuring 3, and
The Matrix. Anyway, sorry, I just love to rub that in. But let's move on to our next story. We're going to be talking about a PlayStation branded t-shirt that costs more than the PS5. And weirdly enough, it's sold out. So just to add a little salt in the wound for those like myself who doesn't have a PS5. Let's get into this story and so much more right here on Pulse 95.
Not in the news?
Not in the news. Weirdness that happened
Today.
True story.
So here's the thing. Every once in a while, usually some high-end brand might collaborate with another brand. For example, we've had Beyonce and Balenciaga. And now we've got PlayStation and Balenciaga, which means that the t-shirt that they are selling or have already sold out costs a lot more than a PS5 because it actually is being sold for $675.
That hurts a little, I'll be honest. The fact that a lot of PS5s nowadays are being sold almost to that price or even higher But the thing is that I went to the website. I'm like, okay, maybe I can try to buy this, right? And hustle with some guy who has a PS5, do a little negotiation. No, this t-shirt is actually sold out. The black one, actually. The red one, maybe there's a few in stock, but I think it's the black one that entices a lot of people. And I know it's going to be up on eBay. It's going to be up on other online stores.
Absolutely.
For a lot more money.
Yes, and apparently the hoodie goes up for another $200, as in it's $875. See, the thing is, I'm not against this, even though some people will be like, high fashion is just too extra. It's, to each their own. But the reason why I'm like it's just very confusing is that the actual design, there's nothing special about it. Again, I get it. You're buying the name brand, which again, I'm all for. If you feel like it's worth it, this brand is your favorite, you want to get it, that's great. But usually the design would compensate for it, as in it will match the price. For example, the Beyonce one, I'm not just saying it because it's Beyonce related, but do you remember the Coachella concert, the one Beyonce held? And basically what she did is she released on her website a very specific sort of design that was just for that concert.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting look. And even herself and everybody during that concert, whether it was the dancers or the entire team, they were all wearing that design.
This one right here, right?
Yes. Not this one, actually.
Wait.
Beyonce, Mika.
This is Beyonce. Am I looking at the wrong one?
You're probably looking at the wrong one.
What about this one?
No, the Beychella one. But But anyway, my point is it was a specific sort of design. And it was actually somebody actually made a specific design that is related to this event. So when I see it, even though it'd be like, okay, this is expensive, but I'm like, oh, this is a very unique design. Meanwhile, the PlayStation one just says PS5, November 2020 collection, and then it's just the triangle, X, and circle and square. I could have done it.
It's uninspiring.
I could have done it. You could have done it.
I don't feel anything,
Exactly. Like if it was an interesting design, I'd be like, yeah, why not? Sure, it's limited edition. It's Balenciaga. Go ahead, go crazy. But I could have done this on MS Paint.
It's a real shame because, when you think collaborations, you think there's a really great opportunity for something creative to take place. But this is just, it's almost like it's half-handed. Nobody really thought of anything. They just went on Photoshop. They put a few brands here and there.
Not even Photoshop, MS Paint, I tell you. And that's just, you do you, I guess. But yeah, would you guys buy this t-shirt? Because I certainly wouldn't. If it was a different design, I would have considered it. Otherwise, it's very lackluster. We're going to be taking a short break. We've got the sports headlines coming up, and then we're going to move on to that Capcom lawsuit. Very interesting perspective over there. Let's talk about it. Coming right up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
on Pulse 95.
Capcom is on a roll these past couple of years with some really great releases, everything from Devil May Cry 5, and now their latest release of Resident Evil 8. And it was a while back we talked about a filmmaker, director, who made a film called The Frankenstein's Army, and he alleged, actually he went on record saying that some of the monster designs in those films were copied by Capcom and actually used in Resident Evil 8. Now, I've played the game, and some of his claims are substantially true. I can see the similarities.
Especially if you see the first one, like the first images. Again, we don't want to ruin it for you if you guys haven't played the game yet, but you can look up the comparisons. But also, when you see the rest of them, you might say they don't look exactly the same, but they look certainly inspired by his design.
Now, there's a new lawsuit that was filed earlier this Friday by a photographer and designer named Judy A. Jurek, who claims that Capcom has actually copyright. They've stolen a lot of images from pictures that she's taken in a book that she published back in 1996 called Surfaces. And everything from photographs to textures that she photographs herself were intended to be used for visual research for artists. And what's interesting is that the book came with a CD-ROM for the images, but said that if anybody is going to use those images, they have to license the images for commercial use. And what she found out soon enough is that a lot of textures and photographs from her book, everything from glass to metal, are actually been used in the game Resident Evil 4. Everything from the logo design to some of the texture work in the levels itself. And this is not only on Resident Evil 4, but also in Devil May Cry.
Now, it's very interesting because, again, this is something from 1996, and we're talking about several of Capcom's games, and it's none of the newer games, or perhaps it is like they don't really say exactly which ones besides mentioning Resident Evil 4, but I see where that might have happened because obviously they probably sent out a good number of designers to go ahead and bring in some textures and basically create a whole database, and some of them might have used it. Again, was it knowingly or is it unknowingly? We don't know, but I feel like this is going to get settled out of court, to be honest.
I hope so. Looking at some of the similarities, they are very compelling. I was doubting it at first, but then I saw it and I'm like, I see where she's coming from. Now, Jurek herself and her lawyer have asked the court to award her up to $12 million in damages on the count of copyright infringement. And she's also seeking false copyright management and removal of copyright management for roughly around $25,000 for each used photograph from her book. Now, Capcom, one of the representatives, have basically said, yes, we are aware of this lawsuit and have, as always, the PR talk, no further comment. We're just gonna have to wait what happens, and I hope that it does become settled, because if it is true, and the thing is, I feel bad for Capcom now in a way, because now they gotta go back. They gotta open up some really old boxes. They gotta talk with old developers and designers. What did you do back when you were developing Resident Evil 4? It's it gives a little bit of I would say a bad taint to a game that, to a lot of people's eyes, is a masterpiece of a horror experience.
And also, like even Devil May Cry, they didn't even mention which Devil May Cry game. So which one is it? Is it the latest one? Is it one from 10 years ago? Is it the older one? Which one are you talking about? So there's a good chance, like Mikhail said, it's going to require a lot of backtracking, lots of callbacks. But again, Capcom probably has a good amount of lawyers and they know what they're doing. And again, they'll handle it. But I feel like this is going to be settled out of court and probably for a fraction of that price. It's not going to be $12 million because she did say, or they're asking for $2,500 to $25,000 per picture. I'm not sure how they're going to gauge it. I mean, which picture is going to cost $2,000, what's going to cost up to $25,000. It depends on them. I tried
a lot of lawyer hours, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I tried looking up the pictures. I mean, I went to the website where the lawsuit is. I was trying to look through it, but I didn't really find enough. So guys, I mean, check it out. I actually believe her because again, the picture that we were given, that we saw on the various articles, do show that it's literally superimposed on the logo. So it's definitely her work. So she's not, like Mikhail said, she's definitely not lying. We need to wait and see what's going to happen and how the lawyers from Capcom are going to handle it. But the least they can do is admit their mistake and see where it goes forward. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about a whole nother set of studio and a whole nother set of higher ups and the executives who apparently are very, very worried about a certain movie that just happens to be The Batman by Matt Reeves. But what are they worried about? Coming up next in Rumor Has It, only here on Pulse 95.
Speculation, gossip, or hoax. Rumor has it.
Rumor has it that Warner Brothers executives are kind of worried about Bruce Wayne's mental health in The Batman. And I'm a little bit confused because if this is true, isn't that like what The Batman is all about?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what Bruce Wayne is all about? He has lots of trauma to get over. He has PTSD perhaps, and other like mental health issues, and he needs to get over them. I mean, obviously he is going through something, especially since this version of Bruce Wayne is young. And we're trying to see him at the beginning where he's filled with revenge.
The first year of becoming a Batman.
He's filled with revenge at that year because he's like, I will take things into my hand and I will fix everything so that the same thing that happened to his parents do not, happen again. He takes on the mantle of Gotham Savior, which is a very difficult mantle, especially since we know in general in Bruce Wayne's lore and the Batman's lore that for at least the beginning, or perhaps even later on in his journey, not a lot of the police force were fans of him. So he has to fight the people he is protecting and fight all these new weird villains.
Yeah, it's a really weird rumor, but I think what's happening is the film wrapped up filming a couple months back, and now the big executives are getting a chance to see the final draft of this film, and maybe there's some subject matter, and it has to be in regards to mental health, that is maybe a little bit too sensitive on screen.
Actually, what they were saying, it's too dark.
It's too dark.
Which is ironic because wasn't that what you wanted since day one of creating the DCEU? You guys wanted a darker version of the MCU. And although Mikhail and I always spoke about that, you don't need to be, all very gritty and dark for you to give us something serious or meaningful. You can deliver it in many ways, various ways. We always talk about that violence sometimes is unnecessary in a lot of movies. You don't need to show blood and very sensitive images for you to pack a punch into the story. But that is literally what they initially wanted all the way back in 2010 and even before that when they were developing the DCEU. They're like, we're gonna make it really dark. So now that we got something dark and perhaps adequately dark, it's too dark.
I guess it's the higher ups not being able to embrace their very own vision for the future of Batman. But if this is true, then it means this is a film that's going to be very dark, very gritty. Fans are going to absolutely love it, but it could turn off a few heads, and as well as maybe lose that worldwide appeal. That I think that's what the executives are worried about.
I don't think so, because Batman has a great following, and regardless of diehard fans, you always know that superhero names usually always generate revenue because people are still going to watch it even when it's rated 18 plus. You'll always find that is if the cinema does not check, you'll always find like a child there and you're like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. But they're there and they're bringing in, generating revenue. And according to the insider Grace Randolph, we also spoke about yesterday, she says that it just shows that comic creator Jeff Johns was pushing his original writing from the comics and whatnot and just pushing it into the main content. And basically what he's doing is that he's making sure that nobody's messing around with what he wrote and that they deliver a Batman similar to what's in the comics.
I hope that there isn't a sort of like a last-minute interference from the higher-ups at Warner Bros. And we get a really new and fresh take to the Batman franchise, hopefully coming out this October, right?
Yes,
I think so.
Again, unless they move it around again, or unless something bad happens, but they have wrapped up filming, so they've been in post-production for quite a while. Excited to talk about it when it eventually comes out, along with the so many movies that have been delayed again and again and again. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about an interesting console, not the Switch, not an Xbox, not a PlayStation, not even Google Stadia, which technically is not a console. But we're going to be talking about the tiny Playdate, a handheld console that's getting a price bump but double the games. Coming up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah
on Pulse 95.
I've never heard of the Playdate until recently, which is a handheld console, kind of a smaller version of a Game Boy Color, like a very tinier version, but it has a crank on it in addition to the D-pad as well as the A and B pads, which looks very interesting.
And it's as small as you can actually fit it in your pocket.
Oh yeah, definitely. Again, it's like kind of, you cut a Game Boy Color in half. That's how big it is. And it was initially, they promised a $149 price label, but now they've raised it to $179 at launch. And they said that even though it looks kind of steeper, but they're also offering a lot more games than they initially promised.
Now, some of the games that they were talking about are still under wraps. They're very secret. One of them is called Cranking's Time Travel Adventure. And a game like that actually uses the little crank system that you have with the handheld console. But everything else, they're waiting until June 8th. Which they're going to unveil more of the games, tell you more about what you can expect, and even a pre-order be available for users who are interested.
And also, they've raised the storage from 2 gigabytes to 4 gigabytes, which should tell you that, wow, that is a very, internally, very big console. But I'm still kind of iffy about its price point, even though they're like, we promise you 24 games instead of 12 and 4 GB worth of storage. I don't know about its value in terms of, especially since it has a crank, like how is that, how does that add value or uniqueness? Okay, it is unique to an extent, but I don't see it as the sort of console that is nothing beyond a novelty, something cool to own, but nothing that can necessarily survive long enough or compete with any of the big consoles. Again, this could be just me saying things. Somebody can pick up this audio in 10 years and be like, remember when you said this, Aisha?
Yeah.
But again, this is just my opinion. I'm looking at it. It feels like a very novelty, very reminiscent of, retro gaming style.
It might wind up as a really neat niche collection of some kind.
Yeah.
I can see what they're going for. It's quite unique. No other console probably does this. Short and simple is this marketing point here. And when it does come out, I'm definitely going to look at some reviews myself and see if it's even worth purchasing. And I won't buy it day one. I'll probably buy it a year later.
Mikhail, you have a PS5 and a Nintendo Switch Pro to buy.
Thank you for reminding me that.
You don't have. I don't think it could be added to.
If buying this is easier than the PS5 and the Nintendo
it definitely
Switch.
is. It definitely is and will be in comparison. I mean, that's not even. You can't even argue about that.
I'm hurting a little, but
okay.
Let's wrap it up here for the show. We got a final suggestion for the hour, so stay tuned for that right here on the Afternoon Karak.
It's almost 5 p.m.
That was Afternoon Karak.
For dessert,
Aisha and Mikhail suggest...
Our usual suggestion is always for you guys to check out our podcast. That usually goes up a little bit after the show ends. Just search up Afternoon Karak wherever you listen to podcasts, and that could be SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Rami. Just search up, as usual, Afternoon Karak. But also, if you want to see our faces, our expressions, Mikhail making fun of me for saying matrix instead of matrix and him just going straight up red, you can always check out our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio, and subscribe to it. We're also going to be uploading the video a little bit as well after the show. As for an actual suggestion, here it is from Mikhail.
Okay, so my suggestion for you guys is that, whenever you get one of those phone calls, it's suspicious. Mm-hmm. You pick up the phone, and it's definitely not someone from Etisalat. It's definitely not that person from your bank, and they're asking you all sorts of weird questions, scripted monologues, and that this is a scammer, right? So you immediately close the phone. But my suggestion, you should do a little bit more than that. Besides ignoring and blocking the phone numbers, you should report those phone numbers to your respective police app. If you're in Sharjah, if you're in Ajman, Dubai, whichever, so there is an option in those apps to report those phone numbers, because as citizens, we should spread awareness, and we should try to prevent these scammers from taking not only advantage of us, but others out there in the community.
Yes, you need to obviously check what is the proper department that you're supposed to contact, whether it's the police or is it your local economic department. You've got one in Sharjah, you've got one in Dubai, etc. And each and every emirate has one. Is it, basically you need to look it up a little bit. Is it Amin Services as well? Because that also takes care of a lot of...
they crack down on these things real
definitely.
fast.
So just check that out. It doesn't take anything longer than a 2-minute or 1 minute, just Google search. You find the number and just instantly report it, whether it's through a phone call, and probably there's most likely an application for you to use or a website where you can just easily anonymously upload all your information.
Or best yet, just call up your closest police and tell them, hey, how do I report this? And they will help you right away.
Exactly. They might actually direct you to the actual department that you're supposed to speak to if it's not the police. And this goes on actually to jump on Mikhail's suggestion. That goes also for any traffic violations that you see. If you see somebody tailgating, if you see somebody putting their children at risk in a car, you can also call the police or lodge a complaint through the police's website. And this is all for today. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same vibes on the afternoon Karak from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. only here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.